of qualifying and practice for the 1991 Australian Grand Prix begins. And it begins with Gerhard Berger accelerating out of the track, the man who was second fastest yesterday. But the interesting thing about today so far is the fact that the sun is certainly not shining, the skies are certainly not blue. There is in fact quite a stiff breeze. The engines should like today's weather conditions. It's cooler, they ought to get a heavier charge of oxygen. But Alan Jones, will the drivers like today's conditions with the wind blowing?
Murray, I think you're right. I think it'll be a quicker day. I think that the cooler atmosphere will make the engines perform a little bit better. There's going to be a little bit more rubber on the circuit. So maybe you were spot on with your prediction yesterday at a 142. You were right on the money. I said a 138. I think today's conditions may very well give us that. The wind, well, it's from a nor'east at the moment, which will give them a crosswind down the main straight, if anything. And because of the concrete walls, I don't think it'll affect them all that much.
Now, here is Michael Schumacher, who is Nelson Piquet, 3 times world champion, Nelson Piquet's teammate. And Schumacher is certainly the sensation of Grand Prix racing of 1991. 22 years old, Mercedes-Benz sports car driver, and he's being groomed by Mercedes, hopefully as far as motor racing fans are concerned, for a return of the Stuttgart organisation to racing. What do you think of him, Alan?
I think he's an enormous talent. If you watch that car control now, it's just flipping around. I watched him through the chicane past the pit straight yesterday. He was certainly one of the deepest drivers into it. He gets the car very deep, he commits it very deep into the corner and then yanks at the wheel, but in a smooth way. Very, very fast, aggressive driver. So when you see a good driver like that, you can actually watch them. You can stand out on the circuit and you can see them violently, more aggressively huddle the car around, and he's certainly one of those drivers.
This is a typical Senna lap, very smooth. Talk us round, particularly the braking and the apex.
All right, we're going into Brabham Straight now. That right-hander into Brabham Straight's very important. If you come through there cleanly, don't scrub any speed off, you can actually get a couple of extra kilometres now while you come down here. Flat chat in 6th gear, going down through the gearbox now into a 2nd gear corner, or 1st gear, depending on your gear ratios. Feed it in very smoothly through a very quick left-hand. You can get sucked in here because you've got to be on the brakes quickly. A lot of cars go off there. Feed it on now, and now really he should be flat out from this point through the left-hander, up through the next right-hander, no sooner through here than bang, he'll be on the brakes, down into 1st, feed it on gently, whoops, whoops, a little bit of understeer, come out, feed it on. Now up through the gearbox down to the chicane.
This is the tricky one. This is where Suzuki went off yesterday.
This is right, very tricky corner, over the bumps, whoops, just put a curb over, flat now, down through the gearbox. Very bumpy braking area into a 2nd gear right-hand, you see the bumps? Whoops, he's up the escape road.
Oh, this is something special. You don't very often see this with Ayrton Senna, and he gives it he's not only given it a bootful to try to recover, but he stalled it. Here's a replay, I think, of Ayrton Senna. See, he just went straight on.
Well,
Too
of course,
fast?
Yeah, well, that also is a sign of a very good driver. I mean, it's not a good sign of a driver that he had to, and then he spun it, and then he stalled it. That's a sign of a, but that was a quick decision. That is a decision that a top driver has to make. You're in a situation where you think, hang on a minute, I'm not going to get around here. Why take a punt? If I do it, I might end up by hitting the wall and destroying my car. It's practice, nothing counts. I'll go up the escape road and make double sure.
That is Häkkinen, and that is, he did there exactly what Suzuki did yesterday, except that he managed to get away with it. Gianni Morbidelli in the famous Car 27, the Ferrari, the 23-year-old Italian from Pesaro, started his Grand Prix career with Dallara last year. He's been driving for Morbidelli with Ferrari engines this year, but he is also the Ferrari test driver, as he was last year. So he knows the 642 V12 Ferrari extremely well from many, many test sessions. And when Ferrari had their now famous falling out with Alain Prost, as a result, off goes the Jordan, and it is Zanardi, Sandro Zanardi. Alan, Zanardi, who did so well when he came into Grand Prix racing 2 races ago, really hasn't covered himself with glory in Japan and now here, because he went off in 2 cars yesterday, virtually destroyed one of them. Now he's gone off again.
I mean, see, here he goes now. He gets a wheel up on the curb that throws the car off balance. It gets him into the corner too deep, gets onto the grass. It's all over once you're on that grass. You can forget your brakes, although you can see the wheels stop spinning. You've got to stay on them. And he goes, I would hesitate to guess that he hasn't done a great deal of damage to the car. He's probably damaged the rear wing. I'd say a quick trip back to the pits, a new rear wing, and hopefully he'll be back in business.
And we'll be back in business with more of the second practice very soon on Nine's Wide World of Sports. This is the second practice session for the 1991 Australian Formula One Grand Prix.
Well, it's interesting to note that Zanardi, who is probably spending more time off the circuit as well as on it, is not all that far behind his teammate Cesaris, and they've got both the Jordans in the top 6 in 4th and 5th, so it says something for that chassis, Murray.
Anyway, here is Mansell, second fastest. Now, we've got about 23 minutes to go in the session. He's got new tyres on. Are they qualifiers, Alan? What's your guess?
I would say yes. I would say with 23 minutes to go, they've done all their full tank testing. I would say that now they're on empty tanks, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if he's on qualifiers, getting ready to set the car up for a fast one this afternoon.
I wonder if we can hear what he's saying.
David, this is hole 2 rear wing, yeah?
That's correct. Hole 2 rear wing. We've gone down 1 at the front and 2 at the rear on ride height. And then 40 litres of fuel in it, new set of Charlie tyres.
The tyres will take a bit longer than the...
Okay, we'll have enough time to do 2 time laps with C's and then 2 qualies, yeah? Okay, let's go.
Okay, that was the voice of Patrick Head you heard talking to him. I would say, by the sounds of it, he's roading possibly a set of race tyres. It sounded like he may have had a different compound on the left than on the right, which means simply that if they're a little bit questionable as the wear of the front left-hand tyre, they might put a slightly harder one on because it's doing more work around the circuit than the rest, and then they might have sort of a B on the front left and C's all the rest of the way around. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he's roading the car, roading the tyres in, just getting the newness off them, putting them away ready to race on, and as he said, when he's done that, he'll come in and he'll try 2 sets of qualies or qualifiers.
And here is Ayrton Senna now. It will be most important for these drivers to get the feel of the circuit on the quicker qualifiers. They go, remember, there's anything up to 2 seconds in a lap here of improved time, and that means you've got new limits, new parameters, different braking distances, and all of this has to be sussed out beforehand. And even when the ultimate qualifying run comes, the driver is tending to break new ground. He's pushing the car and himself to limits that he can't normally go to. He's got a bit of a fire at the back of his car. You can see there's an oil leak there, and I'd hazard a guess that Ayrton doesn't know about that yet. I think he knows he's got a problem, but whether he can see, he won't be able to see in his mirror that he's actually got flame out of the back. Maybe they've told him on the wireless, because his pit crew, if they're watching on TV, will have seen that. And I expect they've told him. And if somebody wants to get an extinguisher onto that quick, he's going to fire his on-board. There you are. There's a sensible chap, and that hopefully will put it out. And I think he fired his on-board. Now, that's quite right. Ayrton is stopping them putting more foam around the car than necessary, because it really does do a lot of damage to the mechanical components. It's extremely difficult to clean off, and it's very abrasive.
And Riccardo Patrese is still quickest, with Mansell on a pretty fast one now. He's gone round to do his setting up lap. He's getting a few cars in front of him. That was Eric van der Poel, the Belgian, in the Lamborghini chassis and engine. And Mansell is going for the fastest time, which is currently held by his teammate Riccardo Patrese, 1 minute 14.79.
And smoke from the back of the Williams there. As he went, he bumped it over the curb, and straight away we saw smoke. Whether the two are connected, whether he bumped an oil line off as he curved it then, or whether it was already a problem, but one hopes he has a look in the mirror and sees that cloud of smoke and stops it pretty quickly, because otherwise that's going to be an engine or a gearbox. Yes, there's still puffing smoke. Oh, no, he looked in his mirror then. It may be that he's seen it, and maybe his pit called to him. Yes, I think he spotted it, and he slowed it down.
But even in spite of that, I don't know whether Nigel knew it would be unlike him to go on if he knew he was in the process of blowing his engine. He's third fastest now, 1 minute 14.8, just 1/10 of a second slower than his teammate Riccardo Patrese, who is fastest.
Well, less than a minute to go now of this session. The people all having a practice run on qualifying, because whatever happens, as Gerhard Berger goes quickest, Berger 1:14.3, and that's marginally quicker than his time of yesterday. Yes, marginally quicker. So the track is quicker. It's going to be in the 13s pole unless we get any rain, and everybody, if they want to maintain the same grid position, is going to have to improve on yesterday's time.
So at the present moment it is Gerhard Berger quickest, the man who was second fastest yesterday, and we're riding with the Austrian in the McLaren now into the pits. So at the end of the free session, it is Gerhard Berger fastest, 1 minute 14.3, which is marginally slower than he went yesterday. Riccardo Patrese and Mansell much better in the Williams. Nelson Piquet and Schumacher 5th and 6th in the two Benettons. Sandro Zanardi an excellent 6th, and notably Ayrton Senna out of the top 6. In fact, he finishes 10th as a result of that fire which stopped his McLaren on the circuit. And so ends the second practice session.
Well, there you are.